Welcome to the show, everybody.
Hello, everyone. I'm Kristen Joe.
And I'm Cameron Word.
Yeah. I love to travel.
Yes.
And you sometimes.
Sometimes.
Yeah.
No, honestly, it's really funny. I like to live. I'm living abroad, right?
True.
I'm living in Korea as an American.
Right.
But the traveling, I get so tired.
Do you?
So quickly. So I prefer to just live abroad rather than travel abroad.
That's a great idea. Live abroad. You're always traveling.
Right.
Well, one thing for me recently is because of the news about over-tourism, especially in places like in Europe. I'm like, I did a backpack tour of Europe.
Yeah.
And, it was great, but I would like to revisit some of those places because it was just rushed.
Right.
But these days, I'm like, I don't know if I want to go back with all those people.
It's true.
Yeah.
I think here's a hot take, which means it's like a
Hot opinion?
Yeah, hot opinion.
Okay.
People may not agree. I think sometimes because there's so many tourists, what's the point of going?
I know.
Like, you don't even get, like, the local...
vibe.
You don't get the local vibe.
It's an international vibe.
Yeah. And there's, like, American fast food restaurants right next to these, like, very historic things.
Exactly.
It's sad, but sometimes...
Well, and that's why this month, on Tuesday, for our travel dialogues, we are fighting against the fight against over-tourism. That is our dialogue topic. So with the topic, the fight against over-tourism is 과잉 관광과의 싸움, right? But what is this? It gets old fast. If something gets old, are we getting older?
I'm sure.
Am I getting old?
No. In this case, we're not talking about age. We're talking about things getting boring or tiresome or annoying.
Unexciting.
You want to quit it.
Okay. So when you say it gets old fast, how do we say that in Korean?
금방 진저리가 날 거야.
진저리가 난다. Yeah, it's like, not good. Okay. All right, that's our topic today. Let's look at some expressions that we're going to learn. If you are fed up with someone or something, FED.
You're fed up with, it means... you don't like it, you're annoyed by it, you want them to go away, you want the thing to stop.
That's right. How about rising tide of something?
So the rising tide means there is a trend upward. So something is becoming stronger or more powerful, more popular.
Right. Okay. And as we just talked about, get old, we just had a little quick thing, but just again.
So to get old means I'm ready for this to end.
Yeah.
This is annoying.
Right. Okay. Well, there's a lot of annoyance today.
Yeah.
Let's go ahead and listen to our power dialogue.
Did you see the article about the protesters in that Mediterranean city who were fed up with tourists?
Yeah. But doesn't that city's economy depend on tourism?
It does, but there's been a rising tide of anti-tourist sentiment because they say it hurts their quality of life.
I guess if people are rude or disrespectful, it probably gets old fast for the locals.
Exactly. Remember that group of drunk guys in Amsterdam for a bachelor party weekend last summer?
Yeah, I felt sorry for the waiter. They were obnoxious.
Okay, please join us on page 14. You can find the power dialogue there. The fight against over-tourism, it gets old fast. Let's take a look. Peter says, did you see the article about the protesters in that Mediterranean city who were fed up with tourists? Okay, so there has been a lot of news, and there have been protests, demonstrations, 시위죠, right? And people throwing water at some of the tourists in some cities. Yeah, so this has been going up. This has been going on because they're fed up with tourists. So if you're fed up with tourists, if you're fed up with something, what does this mean?
This means you can't endure anymore because it is so annoying, it's so difficult that you aren't trying to understand that other person anymore. You're saying, I'm done. I'm kicking you out. No more of this. So it's the feeling of the locals, the local people, saying they're we can't live our lives. There are too many tourists. And they were quiet. They were like,
참았어.
Yeah.
Yeah, they were like patient. Okay. All right. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's good for the country.
But then they reached their limit. And so they said, I'm fed up. No more. We're going to
do something.
protest.
Yes, that's right. So they're fed up with the tourists.
Yes.
And Stephanie says, yeah, but doesn't that city's economy depend on tourism? Right. So you would think that a city benefits from the tourism, right? And that's
right.
what Stephanie is saying. And what does Peter say?
It does, but there's been a rising tide of anti-tourist sentiment because they say it hurts their quality of life.
Okay. So, of course, money is coming into the city.
Yes.
From the tourists, but there is a rising tide of anti-tourist sentiment. So, basically, tourist sentiment means how you feel about the tourist.
Yes, your feelings
about the tourism, right? And it's anti, meaning you're against it.
Yes.
And there's a rising tide of this.
Yeah. So a tide, of course, is the level of water, like at the ocean. Whenever there's high tide and low tide, right? So if there's a rising tide, it means it's getting higher and higher and higher.
The water.
So the water originally. But here, when you're talking about the anti-tourist sentiment, and there being a rising tide of it, you're saying that more and more people have some not so good feelings about all of these tourists in their city.
And it's interesting, Cameron, because we could say, oh, there has been an increase of anti-tourist sentiment,
yes.
right? That works too. Is there a particular reason why we would use a rising tide?
I think it's just the feeling of water, how it slowly rises over time, like the waves coming in and it slowly gets bigger and bigger.
Right.
Until it creates like a flood, right?
Right.
It's not like an immediate increase. This is something that has happened over time.
Yeah, it's kind of like something's brewing.
Yeah.
It kind of gets hotter and hotter and hotter until it explodes. So there's a rising tide of this kind of sentiment because why? It hurts their quality of life. And quality of life is our power vocab for today.
삶의 질.
Yes,
right? In Korean. So this is making the difference between having money and having wealth, I guess, versus your life being actually good. So before, they were talking about how the city's economy depends on this tourism and the money that these tourists bring.
Right.
But there's also the factor of, okay, maybe we have money, but we don't have our town anymore.
We can't enjoy the life that we want to enjoy.
We can't go to the market and buy the food. We can't even buy a house because now there are all these like hotels that have like made real estate prices go up.
Yeah.
We can't even live in the house that, it's like Venice in Italy. I heard that like Venetians, people who are originally from there, don't even really live in the city anymore.
Yeah.
They have to live outside and then go in.
They go in to work. To work,
right.
Yeah. I can understand that. Okay. So then Stephanie says, I guess if people are rude or disrespectful, it probably gets old fast for the locals. Okay. So if people, meaning the tourist, are rude and disrespectful, no manners, right? What does this mean? It probably gets old fast for the locals. So imagine the situation. You've got a great, beautiful city. People living there. Oh, you've got some visitors. Oh, great. It's good. It's nice to see people from all over the world.
Yeah.
But this gets old fast. What does that mean?
So here when it's talking about like the rude people, I mean, me as well. Like whenever I'm at like a party or at a restaurant or whatever, and there's someone with me who's rude, maybe the first time they say something rude, I'm like, and you kind of like just move on. But then when they keep saying rude things, it's like, okay, this has got to stop.
Oh.
Like you don't have a lot of patience.
That's right.
Your patience runs out very quickly.
Right. So to say that it gets old fast just means like, yeah, in the beginning it seemed kind of new, like, oh, great, exciting, tourists, yay. And then if it gets old, it's like, forget it, no more.
Okay, yeah, I'm not putting up with this.
Okay. What does Peter say?
Exactly. Remember that group of drunk guys in Amsterdam for a bachelor party weekend last summer?
Okay, a lot of, alcohol drinking, okay? Stephanie says, yeah, I felt sorry for the waiter. They were obnoxious. If you feel sorry for someone...
Yes, this does not mean that you are sorry because you didn't do anything bad, right? You can't be, sorry in that way. But to feel sorry for someone means like, oh, they have it so difficult. Oh.
Too bad for them.
Too bad for them.
All right. So, yeah, a lot of the times, with the over-tourism, people get really loud at night. They get, they're on vacation, they drink.
When it's not their country, so they think that they can do whatever they want.
Right. Okay, let's go ahead and listen to that one more time.
Did you see the article about the protesters in that Mediterranean city who were fed up with tourists?
Yeah. But doesn't that city's economy depend on tourism?
It does, but there's been a rising tide of anti-tourist sentiment because they say it hurts their quality of life.
I guess if people are rude or disrespectful, it probably gets old fast for the locals.
Exactly. Remember that group of drunk guys in Amsterdam for a bachelor party weekend last summer?
Yeah, I felt sorry for the waiter. They were obnoxious.
It's time for Power Note. We're on pages 16 and 17. We're going to give you some example sentences with the phrases that we just learned. If you are fed up with someone or something, it means here that you cannot tolerate something anymore.
Yeah.
You are disgusted. You don't want it anymore.
Enough.
Enough is enough.
Yep.
Okay. I am so fed up with my upstairs neighbor.
Are they still stomping around in the middle of the night?
Yes. Ugh. Okay. That's right. Yeah, it's bad. The workers were fed up with the long working hours. So as you can see in both of these cases, it's not one time. It's like maybe again and again and again, and then finally you have reached the last bit of patience.
Yeah, it is definitely not the first time that you would be fed up.
Yeah, it wouldn't work. This expression wouldn't work if you say, like they did it once and I'm fed up. No. Yeah. What else could you be fed up with?
I sometimes get fed up with people that don't respect lines. Like, you know how there's no, like, sometimes it's very obvious that there's a line.
Yeah.
And, like, everyone follows it. But sometimes there's, like, unofficial lines that you're supposed to be in that sometimes people don't follow. And you're like, are they clueless? Do they know? And they're pretending like they don't know?
Yeah.
Because I've been waiting here.
So sometimes I've had this encounter too. Sometimes I think genuinely, like maybe older people probably don't know. And you just say, oh, I always say like, oh, the line is back here. I'm waiting. They're like, oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
But it is true. I understand sometimes.
It's like, do you think I was just standing here because I wanted to stand here?
Right. Okay, so those things you could be fed up with. Okay, noisy neighbors, working overtime, like a really mean boss.
Are you going to be fed up with the weather?
Ooh.
It's been raining for 12 days.
Oh, my
gosh. Fed up with this rain.
Okay, I'm going to move. All right. Rising tide of something, it means it's like slowly increasing.
Yes.
Okay? It's getting stronger and stronger. Why are there so many police cars on the streets lately?
There's been a rising tide of violent crime over the past month.
Okay. A rising tide of anti-immigrant sentiment has spread across the country. So I feel like in both of these examples, there is a large number as well.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
It's not just an increase of little by little, but it is like, it's like swelling.
Yeah, it's a trend that is growing.
Yes.
And it's going to flood the area.
Right.
And so this expression, while I guess technically it doesn't have negative meaning in the expression, I think it is most often used in negative situations.
I agree.
So like a rising tide of crime or a rising tide of, like we talked about this, like anti-immigrant sentiment, these things that are very negative sounding. So
Yeah, because I don't think you would use this in a positive context.
there's a rising tide of joy.
No, it just doesn't sound right.
It might work in some cases, but it is not common. Even if it's not negative, it might be neutral. So there's a rising tide of left-wing support or right-wing support. So you can talk about politics in a way of like a political trend taking over. And that might be said neutrally. But I think that this does tend to go negative.
Right. So maybe there's maybe teachers in education, there's a rising tide of complaints or dissatisfaction with a job.
Yes.
So it is like growing and growing. Okay, very good. Now, if something gets old, this is interesting. So the way it's used here is that it becomes boring, just like same old thing, tiresome. Yeah, and it's no longer fun or exciting.
Yes.
Okay? Is Max still asking a dozen questions at every staff meeting?
Yeah, and it's getting old.
Yeah, it's getting...
That person who asks so many questions in the meeting.
Right.
Ask it in an email.
Right. So when you say, it's getting old, it means stop, not again.
I'm so tired
I don't want to
this.
do this again.
This is so annoying.
Right, okay. For a bartender, dealing with drunk customers gets old really fast. Right. In the beginning, you started as a bartender, okay, a few times, but it happens every night.
Yeah. That would get old very fast.
It would get old very fast. Okay, let's give one more example.
So dad jokes can get old.
What are dad jokes?
So like 아저씨, 아재 개그, right?
아재 개그, okay.
Yeah. So whenever, I guess anybody can say it, but kind of most often it's like your dad.
Yeah.
He says these jokes that aren't really funny.
First time you laugh.
You're like, Dad, you're so funny.
Yeah, right.
And then by the second time, third time, Dad! Stop!
Okay. It's getting old.
It's getting old.
Okay. If you feel sorry for something or someone, this is our power pattern. What does it mean?
You are not sorry yourself. You're just looking at someone and saying, oh man, poor them. I feel bad for them.
Yes. Okay. I felt sorry for the little puppy begging for food.
Oh.
Okay.
I felt sorry for the woman raising 5 kids by herself.
Okay.
Again, this isn't the fault of yourself, but you see something bad happening to another person, you're like, man.
You feel bad.
Yeah.
Right. Our power vocab today is quality of life. Do check out the definition on page 18. And what else should we do?
Please go to 오디오학당, and for a small monthly fee, you can listen to so many wonderful EBS shows and review over and over again.
Okay, very good. And please make sure to join us at 6 p.m. for our live show on Evening Special. Have a great day.
Bye-bye.